Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're looking at a few fragrances which I bought before I came down with the pogs, and that I bought just as cheapies to see how they go. So today we're going to be looking at these three numbers from Ard Al Zaafaran. Okay, so Ard Al Zaafaran, like, who are they? Basically, like, I don't really know them. They're a company from the United Arab Emirates who sell perfumes really cheaply on eBay. They've done a few clones that are apparently quite good. I have not smelt them, so I don't know. But basically, I kind of heard that they've done these clones, and I thought, you know, and the reviews were really good, and they were saying, hey, these are quite good clones, they're quite good quality. So I thought, do you know what? Let's test out some of their other fragrances, because the problem with, you know, buying a clone is you're always comparing it to a different fragrance. You're not comparing it necessarily on its own merits. You're kind of instantly kind of putting it up against another fragrance. So I thought I'd try some of their other fragrances just to see how good a quality they actually were. Now, bear in mind that all three of these cost me between £7 and £11 delivered, and the delivery was rapid as well. So, you know, already, I mean, to be honest, it's almost a bargain. Anything for that price is a bargain. I mean, what else are you going to buy? But I bought three fragrances, and I had some criteria, so I'm going to kind of go into them. First of all, I didn't want it to be a clone. Like I said, I wanted to judge it on its own merits. And secondly, I heard that like a lot of their fragrances were essentially like nuclear, like seriously would like choke an entire room out if you're not careful. So I found an eBay seller who really good of them wrote, sort of in the description of the fragrances, would write in one or two, basically, this is a fragrance for a shy person, or this is a fragrance, so I'm paraphrasing, but it was something along the lines of, you know, this would make a good gift for a shy person, or a fragrance for someone who doesn't particularly want to be noticed. And I sort of took that to mean, brilliant, that's probably normal performance. If, you know, if the normal performance for Ard Al Zaafaran is totally nuclear, for a shy person it's probably normal. And as it turned out, that was basically correct. So I picked up these three fragrances anyway. So what did I pick up? I bought, first of all, I picked up this one, but this is, I'm going to talk about this one last, and it's Oud Ispahan, which you might recognise the name. There's a Dior Privé collection called Oud Ispahan. They're not related, it's not a clone. And I was impressed with that one. So then I went on ahead and I picked up these two, and I picked up these two. This one I picked up first of all because it was an Oud and a Rose, and I thought that's probably worth a check. And that is Mukhallat Sharqia. Yeah, it's a pretty standard Oud and Rose number. And I picked up this one based purely on the bottle because I thought the bottle was really nice, and it was Diwan Al Sultan. So they're the two that I picked up outside of Oud Ispahan. We're going to come back to Oud Ispahan in a bit. First of all, let's talk about these two. So straight up, we talk about Mukhallat Sharqia, which, say, it's an Oud and a Rose number. And I mean, the bottle itself, it's a heavy glass bottle. I mean, you could kill small children with all of these bottles. They're mental. The packaging that it come in was, again, mental. Like, it was only a cardboard box, but it was like serious cardboard box, you know, like, it was done well. The lids are a little bit kind of tacky, but whatever. And this actually has, I mean, I dread to think how cheap it is, but it actually has, I don't know if you can see that in there, but it actually has pieces of oud inside it, which at £7 this cost me delivered. You dread to think how cheap that is, right? But anyway, what does it smell like? It's an Oud and a Rose, and it's a Turkish rose, and personally I detest it. This one was a real letdown for me. It's nuclear performance. If you spray it I will spray it on a test strip, but I'm going to be really careful how I spray it, because this stuff is, I mean, it gets on your clothes and it will last for days. And it's just, like I say, I didn't personally find it that pleasant. So to sort of talk through it's very astringent when you first spray it. The rose is quite nice, but it's very synthetic. The whole fragrance is very synthetic. It is quite understated. It like I say, it's nuclear performance, but it is quite understated. It doesn't kind of choke out. I mean, more than one spray and you'll certainly choke people out, but if you just give it like one spray, it'll be okay. Now, the biggest problem that I have with this is to say it's incredibly synthetic. The rose in this smells a lot like rose oxide, if you're aware of that at all. It's rose oxide inactive is a aroma chem that I've got. It's a very metallic, sharp rose note, and this smells like they've gone way overboard with that aroma chem, and to me that's quite a brutal, sharp note. It's I say, like, the rose is incredibly strong. It's not particularly attractive. And the oud again is very, very synthetic, but it's not terrible for the price. It's not terrible. I'll be honest, rose and ouds are not my kind of cup of tea anyway. I bought it because it was so cheap, and I thought, well, I'll give it a crack. But it's not my cup of tea anyway. I think it's probably meh, but I just don't like it. And I find the rose to be way too synthetic and way too sharp and metallic. But if you're into rose and ouds, perhaps you might find it a bit better. And for £7, it's probably not a bad shout. But I would definitely say that I wouldn't recommend it. I personally find it to be really sharp, very, very... It's not soft or relaxing at all. It gets a bit softer and a bit more relaxing, but it's very linear as well. It's not going anywhere. What I'm smelling now is what it's going to be like in like 24 hours, basically, because it lasts forever. And that's basically a really sharp synthetic Turkish rose on a really sharp synthetic oud. And that's your lot. Say the performance is absolutely nuclear. That's the best thing about it. It's, say, the bottle is impressive and all the rest of it, but to me the smell is just, it's just not something I can jive with, to be honest. So that's Mukhallat Sharqia. It's a bit of a letdown. So next up we've got Diwan Al Sultan, and say this I bought purely based on the bottle alone, more or less. I did look at some of the notes, but the thing is the note listings are so obscure on these things. Because one seller, like eBay seller, will have certain notes and another eBay seller will have completely different notes. So you're left just kind of thinking, I don't know, what this could smell like anything. So I more or less bought this based on the bottle. Now, what does it actually smell like? It's actually not. It's better than Mukhallat Sharqia or whatever it's called. But interestingly enough, this could more or less be a clone of just about anything released over the last kind of 10 years from that's aimed at a kind of that spicy oriental think about sort of Pakaraban 1 million, that kind of spice bomb, that kind of vibes. It could be a clone of just about any one of those fragrances, to be honest. It even has, to my nose, it even smells a little bit like Parfum de Marly Layton, but thinner. But it definitely has like a Layton feel, and that kind of sort of cardamom, spicy, and woods, very sweet. This is very, very sweet. It's much sweeter than Layton. But it's not bad. Again, I don't really like it. I find it to be a little bit kind of sharp and offensive. It's very aggressive. But it's if you're into those kind of spicy Orientals that are like super sweet, like looking for a kind of club banger, you know, for the price, you could do a lot worse. Doesn't smell particularly cheap. It smells like a high quality perfume. Like if this could easily blend in with any of those fragrances I just said, apart from probably Leighton, which, I say, Leighton smells much richer and much denser and much woodier as well, and this doesn't quite have the pepper of Leighton. But it smells okay. It's not a bad fragrance. It's not my favourite. I probably won't wear it ever. So I just took a punt on it blind. And I honestly can't see myself wearing it, because in any situation I'd wear this. I'd wear Leighton, which I have. And see, I don't often find myself even wearing Leighton, but that's the perfume that I would wear if I was going to wear like a spicy Oriental kind of woody affair like this. But for £7, if you want something that's along the lines of those kind of Paco Rabanne 1 Million, Spice Bomb, Leighton, those kind of woody Orientals that are very spicy, very sweet, sort of a club banger, you could do worse. You could do a lot worse. I think it's a bit synthetic and smelling, but it doesn't smell cheap. It smells kind of, you know, up there in that kind of designer price range of sort of like 40, 50 quid. I wouldn't put this out of place, to be honest, which for £7 is pretty amazing. So that's Diwan Al Sultan. It's kind of yeah, it's just a spicy. It could be really a clone of just about any of those kind of spicy Orientals that sort of were all the rage about 10 years ago. But, you know, for the price, I'm not upset about it. So last, let's talk about the big one, the big boy, the daddy. This was the first one I bought, and this is what led me to buy those others, because this one is much, much better. If you're with me, if you're still with me, I'm glad, because this one is excellent, actually. This shocked me. Now, I'm going to use a lot of words for this, which might make it sound super amazing, but bear in mind always that this cost me £10.50, I think, delivered. So that's what it is. I'm going to actually spray it because I actually like wearing this one. When I got it, I wore it like 3 or 4 days in a row. I just thought it was really nice. The performance and the sillage on it are pretty average. It's not a monster. You can spray it a couple of times, probably maximum, and that's about your deal. But what does it smell like? So that opening, it's incredibly medicinal, like super medicinal. For me, it reminds me of when I've walked into a pharmacy. It's that medicinal. A friend of mine smelt it, and they said to me, it smells like bandages. You know, it definitely is seriously medicinal. So if you don't like medicinal ouds, I would just not bother. But if you're not too fast, stick with me, because this is beautiful. Now, see, when you spray it, you're greeted with this, basically like this woody medicinal oud, and a very kind of creamy and quite lovely sort of undertone of like a sandalwood, and that's all kind of shot through with a very jammy, almost raspberry smelling rose, and it's really nice. And that, I'm going to put this down because this bottle, seriously, you get a workout doing like a review with this bottle. But seriously, this, say you got that medicinal and that jammy rose. Now that might not sound like it works, but what happens is it almost goes into this kind of like raspberry ripple of, you know, when you've got the ice cream and you've got the kind of the creamy ice cream, and then that kind of shot through with that ripple of fruit. That's what I feel like this has got. With, you've got this kind of this medicinal oud and a very woody kind of sandalwood underneath, and then it's shot through the middle with this kind of jammy rose, and it's synthetic smelling for sure, but it's really nice and it works, and I don't mind that it's synthetic smelling. The oud in this is up there with, like, you know, Mancera, Montal, those kind of ouds, those kind of synthetic ouds. It's really nothing to kind of shake a stick at, and I was seriously impressed with this. The only thing is, the only caveat is, you really need to not mind or enjoy medicinal smells. If you like that, you'll love this. This is incredible. It's really good, and it just gets better. It calms down. The medicinal side slips away a touch. It does remain medicinal throughout, but really it doesn't progress much more. And what you just end up getting is this kind of sandalwood and kind of jammy rose, with a lovely kind of medicinal oud that all kind of blends together to make this lovely kind of creamy, sort of almost raspberry ripple, which is not as sweet as it sounds either. It's not like a seriously sweet raspberry ripple. It's like a, you know, it's finely balanced between like nice woods and the medicinal and the fruity kind of sweetness, to be kind of on a level. You know, it's not too sweet, it's not too dry, it's just about perfect for a comfy smell. It is quite masculine, I'll say that. I think you could wear it as a woman. I would say these two you could definitely wear if you wanted to. I'm not sure why you would ever want to wear that. But you could wear those. They're pretty straight down the line unisex. Say Oud Ispahan is a little bit more, I would say, lean masculine, but I do think it's unisex, and I think you could wear it at any time. For me, I really enjoy it in the evenings when I'm by myself, just because of that medicinal side. It is very medicinal. I mean, you can't get around that. It's seriously medicinal, like serious. So I'm not sure if it's really everyone's cup of tea, but I enjoy wearing it by myself, like in the evenings. I've quite enjoyed putting it on before I go to bed and just kind of having that nice kind of comfiness that it's got. And I just think it's lovely fragrance. But I do think, say, you could wear it any time. The medicinal stage, I think a lot of people are going to mistake that for, like, I mean, it genuinely reminds me of this, in specifically a pharmacy that I used to go to. A friend of mine used to work there when I was a kid, and I used to walk into this pharmacy and I always can remember getting hit by that smell when you walk in, of the kind of the different medicines, and that's what this smells like. For £10.50, this is such a bargain of a fragrance. It really is, and it's one of, like, the more unique and really enjoyable fragrances that I've bought recently. Which is saying something, because I've bought a fair few that are a damn sight more expensive than this, and this is, for me, really, really nice. I really enjoy it. I would seriously recommend seeking this out if you're at all interested in a medicinal oud that's got a jammy rose. That's the problem, is the medicinal oud. I think that's going to put a lot of people off. I think it's going to be quite polarising. But yeah, otherwise it's gorgeous. It's quite simple. It is just like a smoky incense with a medicinal oud and sandalwood base that has this kind of jammy rose that's spun into that, and that's kind of a lot. As you dry down, the incense comes down a little bit and it turns a little bit kind of saffron. You get that kind of wood comes out a little bit more, but really it's where it is, the medicinal edge comes off, but the jammy rose kind of stays there, and that's kind of a lot. But I think it's beautiful, and I really think it's great for the price. It's obscene. So yeah, that's more or less my kind of dabble with Ard Al Zaafaran. Say, I would have to say Mukhallat Sharqia. However, I'm probably saying this really wrong. I apologise to anyone that can speak the language. I wouldn't recommend it really. Maybe if you like oud and rose scents, it's worth a crack for the price of it alone. But personally, I found it to be a little bit too synthetic and way too sharp. That rose note was way too sharp. Then Diwan Al Sultan. Yeah, it's okay, but I've got other scents that do the same job. But it's, if you're looking for a kind of spicy oriental, kind of very sweet banger, you could do worse. So it smells a little bit like Leighton. I don't think it's a clone. I don't think it's meant to be a clone, and I would only say it's about 50% the same. But it gives me hints of those, but it also gives me hints of a lot of other those kind of spiced orientals. So I say I don't think it's necessarily a Leighton clone. It's just a kind of generic spiced oriental. But you could do worse for the price. It's not great. It's not bad though. I say in terms of kind of quality wise, I would put it up there with designers, and for that price, that's pretty cheap. The real jewel for me though was Oud Ispahan, and this is just really great. And I think if you like or would like to dabble into medicinal ouds, with kind of jammy roses, if that sounds at all appealing, with an incense and saffron and kind of sandalwood in there as well, really you can't go wrong. 100ml, it was like £10.50. The bottle itself, you could build houses out of this, or you could throw it at a small child and it would kill them dead. Like it's obscene. But yeah, it's a great fragrance. That's more or less my Ard Al Zaafarans. I would like to explore them a bit more because they're so cheap, and really if you get a duffer, so what. But you know, I will probably do so over the coming months. I'm not too fussed about their kind of clones, but I might pick up one or two just to see. But they've got a huge catalogue of fragrances, and I think if just like 10% of them are hits, then for the price, great, you know, and it's interesting to look to. So anyway, that's that. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Like, subscribe, all those sorts of things. Comment if you have any Ard Al Zaafarans that you kind of recommend, or really any fragrances from that kind of Emirates that are really cheap that you kind of like. So I know Dirham is kind of like the big one, isn't it? The big kind of big heavy hitter that people enjoy. But anything else, you know, I'd love to hear your thoughts and recommendations. So yeah, cheers, thanks.